Here we are with Kay Hanley. Hi.
Hi, Stephanie.
I'm just sitting here looking at her such cute bangs, which you will all see. Now, not everybody can make like kind of those short fuck off bangs work, and you really make it work.
Thank you. I've been rocking these for a couple of years now. You know how like you cut your own bangs, like, and then you
Yes.
grow the. Like, we spend our whole lives like saying like, I think I'm gonna look great with bangs this time, and then you cut them, and then you're like, damn it, and then you grow them out, and we just spend our whole lives in some state of either having bangs or growing them out. I've
Yes.
actually stuck with these for a couple of years now through several different color changes and hairstyles.
Well, when you find a look that works, it's like why try something else and then just be disappointed in how you look in pictures?
Yeah, I agree. Yes, that's it.
Many, many years ago, in my early 20s, I had just moved to LA. I decided that movie The Professional was out with
Oh,
Natalie
with
Portman
Natalie
with the little
Portman.
with the little chin jaw length bob and the very short bangs, and I thought that that would look good on me. So I had it cut like that and it did not look good on me. I looked nothing like that. I had like a mushroom. I mean, I have very thick hair and it was kind
Oh,
of curly, so it
yeah.
wouldn't do it. And
Hmm.
I didn't know anything
And we
about like
didn't have
straightening
all the,
irons.
yeah,
No, we
we
didn't.
didn't have all those products to whip your hair into shape the way we do now.
Exactly.
But I think I need to see a picture of that because that actually sounds like, I mean, I think that would frame your face very well. But I
It
understand as a
didn't.
person with like weird hair that's like curly in some places and straight in others, like it's really hard to, if I didn't have like products and stuff, I wouldn't be able to do this haircut. I had to do this haircut because my hair was snapping off. This is a great, I'm a wreck, Stephanie, really. I mean,
No.
it's like one thing at a time. It's like one thing happens over here and I fix it. And then it's sort of like whack-a-mole. And my hair was just another thing, was snapping off. So I had to cut most of it off.
Which we all would, I think, in that situation.
Yeah.
Now, okay, let's get into it. First of all, how long have you been sober?
I will be 14 years sober. I know in June, on June 24th.
Wow.
I know.
Okay, so this is interesting because I'm going to be 16 this month, May 22nd. So
Really?
yes, so you must have been struggling because we were talking a bunch. I must have been newly sober and in that like I'm going to help everybody. Like
No,
I'm going to be the friend that I remember because I remember talking to you about it a lot and
really? I see.
yeah,
I was so fucked up all
yeah.
the time that I don't remember talking to you about. And did we talk about? I can't imagine we talked about sobriety. Did we talk about
Yes, we
getting?
did. We talked
Did
about get
we?
yes, we went to some support groups together. I know. It's but you were very new, I think, and there was like a lot of
Oh,
struggle
you
at the
know what?
beginning. Hmm.
I may have been getting off drugs at that time because I got
Well,
off drugs first, and that's when my alcoholism really took off after I got clean from opiates. So,
okay.
and that was like a 2 year window. So that makes a little bit of sense that I would have been talking to you about like a certain kind of like getting off the pills, but like I was not ready to stop drinking at that time. I wish I had been. I have some opinions about how the medical community handles such things,
I
but
want to hear them.
oh, okay. Well,
I mean, I want to go back to, I
okay.
want to hear. Oh, okay. Let's go back.
Okay.
So, Massachusetts, right?
Boston,
Boston.
Dorchester.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you grew like you were born there? Born and
Yeah.
raised?
Born and raised Dorchester, Massachusetts, Irish
Uh-huh.
Catholic, all the things.
What was your family like?
Very devoutly Catholic. Lots of priests and nuns in the family, and lots of, everyone was hilarious, and most people had some sort of, most people drank too much. But some people had alcoholism, some others just drank too much and, didn't seem to have any consequences. My father, alcoholic, mother, untreated Al-Anon until she went to Al-Anon, and she hated it, but she got like a couple of tricks under her and up her sleeve, and that was good. Three sisters, so five of us in one house, in a double decker and one bathroom. So I'm a natural collaborator. I know how to work well with others, because you have to when you have five girls and one bathroom.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah, so that was us.
So drinking young, high
Oh
school?
yeah, yeah. When I tell my story, one of the sort of like main points that I didn't even remember this until I started, like until after I got sober. But so my uncle John, or my uncle Father John Hanley, we would all go to my grandma Hanley's house in Brockton, Mass, for whatever the family holiday, whether it was Christmas or Easter or birthday or whatever it was, 4th of July. We would go to Grandma Hanley's house in Brockton. Father John would say mass at the dining room table. I remember and he would also let me and my sister be altar girls, me and my sister Patricia, which was like so punk rock, so forbidden at that time in the 70s. But John was just like, you're going to be my altar girls. And it was like our little secret. It was kind of amazing. But I remember what everybody drank, that Uncle John drank highballs. My mom drank Cape Codders. My dad always drank Bud Tall Boys, didn't matter what the occasion. And, so on and so forth. And I would always like take a sip of people, and I don't remember feeling anything, but I do remember that sort of making a strong connection between like the drinking, and as the evening went on, like the laughing got louder, the singing started, and like the ball busting got more boisterous, and I felt very happy. Like I felt very happy and content. And
So were you pretty young
oh
then?
yeah, that was like for as far back as I can remember, like
So it
four,
wasn't a
5 years old.
negative connotation
No,
to
no,
like your
not at all.
parents drinking.
Not at all. Not until my dad's, and in fact, like my dad, who's like my favorite person in the world, and he actually died with 10 years of sobriety last year. Um, that's a whole other story. But his he would come home from work, and I would be the one who got to grab the Bud Tall Boy out of the crisper in the fridge and bring it to him, and he'd open it, and I got to sit on his lap, and I'd get to take the first sip like at 4, like
Oh,
my
wow.
whole childhood. And
70s.
I would get my dad all to myself for like, you know, like it seemed like an hour. It was probably like a couple of minutes, but like it seemed like an hour every night to me. And I would just have him all to myself and get all of his attention. And so that was another really strong thing. And I wanted to be just like him. Of course, if you are a person with the disease of addiction, you're gonna at some point, hit that moment where some line gets crossed, and the drinking or the addiction spins out of your control. And so my father definitely started having that escalation, probably when I was about 10 or 11. And then it was not good anymore. Then it was like living in the service of not poking the bear of my dad's alcoholism. His temper was awful. And the yelling, the screaming, the like it felt like, even though he didn't hit us, it felt like violence in our house. And I think that had a much bigger impact on me than, the happy early days,
Right.
you know.
So then it didn't turn you off though of drinking yourself. Like how
No.
long, how young did you start?
I mean, I was, like I said, I was drinking, out of people's glasses and stuff from like 3 or 4. There's actually a picture of me at 2.5, at my Aunt Joanne's wedding. I was the flower girl, and I'm sitting on the stairs at the reception with my flower girl dress on, with a Bud Tall Boy, like drinking a Bud Tall Boy at 2.5 or 3 maybe. And so, yeah, I mean, I loved it my whole life. I didn't, like intentionally go out drinking until I think I was 13. And my older cousin Susan and her friends were all going to the St. Patty's Day parade in Southie. And because it was my cousin, my mom let me go with her, and they were drinking, trigger warning, like if anybody's listening and you have like a weak stomach, just block your ears. Peppermint schnapps and Pepsi.
Okay. I cannot believe that you just said that because,
Oh,
and I have talked about this. In my book, I talk about the fact that we drank peppermint schnapps. You'd get a bottle, 100
yeah.
proof schnapps, and then we would drink it with grape soda. So, so
Oh,
gross, but same idea where
yeah, same
you
thing.
take a big sip of the schnapps and then you'd wash it down and we take a sip of your soda.
Ugh.
Oh yeah, and
And
I
yeah.
recount the fact that one time after a horrible night of that, I literally couldn't brush my teeth because
Oh my
when you're
God,
at an
yes.
age where we had Crest toothpaste and I couldn't explain to my parents that I couldn't have that anymore.
Hmm.
So, and they were not interested in getting different toothpaste for
Yeah,
me because I
like
was like so I just didn't brush my teeth for a while because my stomach would turn.
I totally get that, because I smell, I mean, my cousin ended up, and her friends who were like a year and a half, a grade older than me, like I started barfing on the T on the train, like before we even got to Southie. They just fucking left me there and like sent me, like, I don't know how I found, like, got on a train back to Ashmont, and like woke up on like at Ashmont station, like on a bus bench, and just like with sticky all over me. Like I was just sticky. Ugh. And
It's
then I went
amazing the
home and
amount
got
of
busted.
stories what that oh, you got home and you got busted for it.
Oh yeah, totally.
Okay, it's amazing how many stories we have of these horrible early drinking experiences and yet went on to enjoy a life of drinking.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, that didn't stop me. I just knew that like next time I'm just gonna have to like not, the lesson I took from that was like, oh, I have to pay attention to how much I'm drinking and not drink too much. And so I was able to do that, but I was such a lightweight. I don't know about you. You were probably tiny like me too. Like, I mean, I was like, I don't think I hit 5 feet until I was in high school. So like, I mean, I was a lightweight.
Yeah, I it's interesting because I don't think I ever developed any kind of real tolerance for alcohol in my
Oh,
drinking.
oh,
I
okay.
was always a person that could drink like 4 drinks and then be drunk and not remember stuff the next day. But also, I'm an
Right.
alcoholic, so it's like I have that. I blacked out from the first time I drank. I couldn't remember stuff.
Yeah. I had a blackout that, like I said, I have no recollection of how I could have possibly gotten back to Ashmont, woken up on that bench, and then walked up across Dot Ave, up the street to like I have no idea how I could have possibly done all of that. Um, and oh yeah, I mean, and then yeah, you're right. And then we just keep going. I developed, I mean, I could drink, man. I had a very high tolerance. I built one. And
So, so you're in high school. When did you start getting into music? Early in high school?
no, I mean, I was always into music and, like I took piano lessons for a long time. I was terrible at piano. And I sang with my mom at mass, and like, family members would have me like sing at their wedding and stuff like that. So when I was a senior in high school, my cousin Greg was like my third cousin, which is something that I think only exists for Irish people. Like, it's like, what even is that? So he was like, he knew that I sang with my mom at mass, and he was starting a band, and he was like, hey, do you want to be the backup singer in my band? And I was like, fuck yeah, I want to be the backup singer in your band. And so I joined his band as the backup singer, and he wrote all the songs, and I just would come up. I was really good with coming up with like harmonies and background parts and stuff. So I just did that, and
Who was
but
the
didn't
lead singer?
the bass player, who was this dude who his favorite bands were like Devo and stuff. So he was like, he would sing like this and like sing like in a weird voice and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, so it didn't make any sense. So like, but then like 2 years into it, maybe Greg and I got to rehearsal early before everybody else, and he had like a new song that he was working on. He had the lyrics written down in his notebook, and he just like starts playing these chords on his guitar, and I'm looking at the lyrics, and as he's playing this chord progression, I'm like, this melody starts formulating in my head, like going along with what, and I'm like looking at the lyrics, and I just start kind of like making up a song to what he's playing, and we're both looking at each other like, what is happening, right? Because I didn't know that I could write a song. Like, that wasn't something that you do. I was being trained to be a secretary by the nuns. It was like
Hmm.
going college courses were like, you had to like sign up specifically to like for college courses at St. Greg's High. So like I didn't have any ambitions to do anything crazy like be a songwriter or an artist or anything. But it was like we finished the song before everybody got there. And it was like the feeling was like, oh my God. Like, I mean, it was, I can't even, to this day, I have no words to describe what that was like. The realization that I could like make up a song. It was insane. So pretty shortly thereafter, we got rid of everybody in that band and started Letters to Cleo. And,
Oh, so you
and
started Letters to Cleo with Greg?
yeah, yeah,
Oh, interesting.
yeah,
With third cousin.
yeah,
Okay. And then so you came up with the name. I know I read that
yes, yeah,
based on a pen pal situation.
yeah.
So then what happened? How did you guys so at that point were you like, okay, screw college, not going to do that? I
Here's the
mean, you
thing that I
became very successful with this.
here's the thing that I skipped actually.
Okay.
So in high school, I did, even though my mom was like super strict, like I wasn't allowed to do anything, but anytime she would let me do anything, I would go out and go crazy with the booze and like blackouts. Really bad stuff happened to me in high school. And my dad actually got so, after my mom became like an Al-Anon ninja in like 1986, and like had my dad going to rehab. My dad got sober originally in 1985, maybe. And then my mom, convinced that now that I was an alcoholic, was like, and with my dad's amazing City of Boston employee health benefits, was like, you're going. So then I went to rehab. So I was sober in high school,
Oh,
from 17 to 21 to almost 22. And so
well,
I was
that
like,
is a big thing to skip over. So you
yeah,
went to rehab.
yeah.
Did you think, oh, my parents are so overreacting? Because
See,
I just found I was just doing a different podcast and found some journal entries where I basically the year after I graduated high school was talking about the fact that I couldn't stop drinking.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I didn't
I-
get sober till I was 42. So this was when I
Me
was
too.
18. Oh, that's so weird.
So weird.
Yeah. But at 18, I was already like, I can't seem to stop drinking. And I seem to keep making promises to myself that I won't drink and I keep doing it and it's not good. So did you think, oh, my parents are sending me to rehab because now my dad's an alcoholic. So now my mom's an Al-Anon, everybody has to be an alcoholic? Or were you like, oh, good, this is going to be helpful?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I thought. I mean, I was just like, okay. I mean, I knew that there was something wrong with I mean, I had already had um some situations that were deeply um that I had woken up tormented by what I had done the night before on several occasions. So I knew that there was something about drinking in me that was not going great, and I also knew that I loved it. Like I just really only ever wanted to drink. It was kind of all I ever thought about was like when was the next time I was going to be able to do it. And so I don't think I really
Did you go
thought
away like
anything
30
of it.
days?
Yeah, I went to Spofford Hall in New Hampshire, and and that's where I went. And I was 17, but they put me in with the adults because I was very mature. Um, and I came home and and a lot of kids my age in Dorchester and Southie, weirdly, were getting sober at that time. A lot of them are still sober, like 40 years
Wow.
now. Yeah. Yeah. And like, yeah. So we had a blast. Like we went to sober dances. We drove all over New England. We like went to, oh my God, we just had so much. And a lot of them were criminals and became like way better criminals once they got sober. and like
Uh-huh.
I got to reap the benefits of that. I didn't see anything wrong with that at the time. Clearly we were not like doing any 12 steps or anything like that, but I mean we were in the program, but it was just a different time.
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
um and then when I was 22, that's when, and I had been in the band for a couple years. I was almost 22. I was just like really feeling myself. And I was just kind of like, oh, I think I overreacted. And then I went out for 20 years.
Classic. Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole I overreacted. I can't tell you how many times I overreacted
Right.
to my own bad drinking.
Right.
Got a little bit like quit drinking for a little while, like very short amount of time, and was
I mean,
like,
you wrote a book called Chardonnay is for sippy cups.
yeah,
So
sippy
like
cups are
I
not for
don't
Chardonnay. Yeah.
because so I don't surely you haven't believed recently that you overreacted.
Well, no, sippy cups are not for Chardonnay was all about my love of drinking
I
as a new
know.
mom. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I know. You
I
were like,
still,
you were out there like being like, I am a drunk mom.
yeah, I
And just
because
being
in
like,
my
that's totally
mind,
normal.
yes, because in my mind I was like, the times that I've questioned my drinking, that was ridiculous. Like, why am I questioning that? Like, drinking's fun and I'm not hurting anybody. In my mind, I'm a very defiant person, where stubborn and defiant, where I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be told what to do. You're not going to
Mhm.
say that drinking as a mom is bad. I'm not hurting anybody, like, until I was. And
Mm-hmm.
then it got bad. And then I had to do an about face and
Mm-hmm.
go, oh, never mind.
Yeah, like
The
maybe
old
that
me was
wasn't
right.
right. Yeah.
Those
I
journal
I
entries.
remember I remember meeting you around that time and just being like, fuck yeah. Like I am defiant in that way too. And I was just like, I remember I was in Studio City back then, and when the kids were little and going to school, and I have said often that I spent my entire life in the music business, and it was the moms of Carpenter Elementary School in Studio City that brought me to my knees. Like that was like crazy time, was sippy cups and Chardonnay time.
People do not understand the level that moms like to get their drink on.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, it's insane. It is insane. I can't believe I lived through that. Like
So
we all
when,
walked to each other's houses.
yeah,
So, but it was every day.
afternoons.
Yep.
Yeah.
After school, it's like, oh, Junior had a really tough day with Mrs. O'Brien. And I think we're going to need to open a bottle early. And all of us would just be like, yep, sounds great. Be right over.
See, now I got sober right before that. So I was like on the outside of all. I was feeling the like, oh, they're not inviting me to this
Right.
kind of stuff because they think I'm going to be a buzzkill.
And you would, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah. Well, because I was kind of new. So I
Right.
was still a little bit raw of like, yeah, I guess
I
so.
cannot
But
tell you.
preschool, I was
Yeah.
still, they were still getting their drink on and I was doing that.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but when you still work, we would like if there was a mom who had a birthday party for their kid and did not serve wine, she would be the subject of such derision and ridicule for, I mean, we would ridicule her to her face that day, like, where's the wine? But we would never go to any of her parties ever again. And we would just rip her to shreds afterwards. Like, how dare you not serve wine at the birthday party for your 4 year olds?
It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
And I had a party. I do remember having a party at one of those places like a little ballet studio where you could like hold parties too.
Yeah.
They'd have a party and you'd have a princess or whatever. I just remember really straining my brain to figure out like how I was going to serve alcohol because you had to bring in your own alcohol and it was going to be at like 11 a.m. And, you know, this is before I got sober, obviously.
Right.
And I was like, I think I did have champagne available.
Were
It was like
you
fancy, you
feeling
know.
like you didn't want to be judged by the people who owned the place? Or,
No, I felt like it was really imperative. It was just such a priority to get out to make sure there was something to drink. And I feel
yeah,
like some of my friends that weren't big drinkers were like, relax. Like it's a kid's party. And I was like, no, but I think we should have alcohol there. Like, why would we not? Yeah, I would
yeah,
have fit in with you, is what I'm saying.
sounds totally normal to
Yeah.
me.
So, but also before that, take me back to so you're a musician, you decide to like start drinking again. Does it get bad right away or are you like, "Hey, I'm a musician. I'm hanging out with musicians with my band. We're all doing this." Cuz I was in stand-up comedy.
Right.
So, and at a young age, pretty young, like early 20s I
Mhm.
started and it was everybody drank. So nothing to see here.
Yeah, I mean that if you want to, you know, defend your right to drink for a long period of time, be in stand up, be in the music business. It's like we don't have the consequences that, you know, like my sister, who's a nurse, you know, if she shows up to work drunk or is drinking on the job or like punches somebody in the face at the bar after work, you know, it's like she's going to get fired or
Right.
have like major consequences. But like I was rewarded for that, you know, and so even if on the inside I would be deeply remorseful about my behavior, it I wasn't punished for it by other people, by my employers, by my friends, by my social life, by my, you know, it was totally fine. And I never had to lie about my drinking because I could drink whenever I wanted to. So like I never had to keep a secret. Like there were all of these mechanisms in place that kept my, you know, alcoholism out in the open and totally protected. So it were, you know, I would say that you know, I had the normal consequences. Like there was the time that we had to pull all of our gear off of an airplane because I had a panic attack at the airport. And then when I went to the emergency room, the doctor was like palpating my belly and he was like, how much do you drink? And I was like, I don't know, kind of a lot probably. And he was like, and he had me feel like under my rib and you could feel my liver. And this was when I was 24, 25.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, like, I had an enlarged liver from drinking. So, what I did at that point was I stopped drinking all hard liquor. I just drank beer only. and maybe wine sometimes. And that actually worked for probably, it did for like 10 years. Like I was able
Hey,
to
we're
like,
here to help.
yeah, that worked, just like not drinking any hard alcohol. But of course, I also discovered they had trucker speed. Like when we were on the road, there were two. I don't know if you weren't in a band, if you would ever know about this, but at these truck stops at the Midwest, they would have what we called trucker speed, but it was just pure ephedrine in these. So it was
In
speed
those little
in the
bottles.
little
Yeah,
bottles.
I totally remember that. Yeah, they still
Yeah.
have that. You could get that at any 7-Eleven.
Well, not, you can't get ephedrine
Oh,
anymore.
you can't? Okay.
No, no, you can't. I mean, I say that like I'm bummed. Like, I would if I could. I wouldn't if I could. But back then, I mean, you can't even get ephedrine in Sudafed. It's like it's pseudoephedrine now, but it
Right.
used to be ephedrine. So it was. So I discovered that. So I would just like I was sort of like I had this kind of chemistry thing going on of managing and controlling my intake of substances and when in the day I could and how many I could and actually that didn't I really enjoyed that. It added some structure to my life where in a life that had none, like
Did the other members of your band, did they imbibe the way you did, or did you feel different?
Michael did, who is my ex-husband, and we have two children together. He is a
Hmm.
huge part of my story. um, And so he partied like I did, but he could stop whenever he want. Like he could just like be like, "Oh man, I partied for too hard. Like I'm gonna," or like, "I don't like the people that we're hanging out with when we're doing coke. I'm not gonna do coke anymore." And I'd be like, "Really?" Like, I
Yeah,
don't understand that. Like he just could like have a consequence and be like, "Oh, I'm not gonna do that anymore."
right. So did you
So,
guys, how old were you when you guys got married?
well, we got together when I was 23, 20, 23, maybe. And he had joined the band already. And then we tried to resist falling in love. We couldn't. And we got married when I was 29.
Oh,
And
wow.
then we got married in 98. And then we
I got married in 99.
oh my gosh, I had my first baby in 99. We're
Oh,
like on
okay.
the same
I
track.
know, I know.
So funny. Um, and then we split up uh, because of my drinking in 2010. And then we were never able to fix it again, which
So
was very sad.
did you feel like he was just not an alcoholic? Like, did you
Yeah.
feel like what is it about me that I can't control? What was it causing fights? Was he like, why can't you just not do like why can't you just be like me and put it down?
At the in our 20s and stuff, it didn't matter. Like that's just something that I clocked in real time. Like it didn't
Uh-huh.
really have any consequences in our relationship that I could like I knew that I couldn't stop. I don't know that he perceived that our drinking was different. It wasn't until we moved to LA in 2002 after or 2003 after Henry was born and we moved to LA and in the the years that followed, I started to have, experience of progression, starting with getting getting addicted to painkillers, and then being like that was when I learned how to that was when I learned how to lie because I remember I never had to keep secrets about my drinking before because I could drink whenever I wanted. And like, so lunch at, drinks at noon, that's fine. Even with the kids, like, we would go to Legal Seafoods and get oysters and wine at, 11 or 12 on a Sunday and like with the kids. And no one ever thought anything of that. When I um realized that I couldn't stop taking the pills because I would get sick. That was surprising to me. I didn't know that that was going to happen. And at that point, I had a decision to make. There was like a fork in the road. It's like, oh, am I going to tell somebody that, like, oh shit, I have been taking too many of these things and now I can't stop because I'm getting sick? Or am I just going to have a secret and just keep doing this? And I chose secret. And by choosing secret, that had a massive impact on what happened after that.
What happened?
Well, what happened was that I kept my addiction secret for 2 years somehow.
So now your
Um,
kids were really
my
small
my
at this
kids were
point.
little,
How did
and
you get
my
the onto the drugs? And I sound like an old
it's
lady.
fun.
How did
How
you
did you
start
get
taking
on those
those?
drugs? This is actually an interesting, funny story. My best friend from Boston was an attorney, and she had moved to Vegas to join her brother's personal injury firm in Vegas. Vegas is at this time, in like the early 2000s, just completely the Wild West. Like they have no rules whatsoever. So Naomi, and she and I have always enjoyed the drugs together, like over the years, just like dabbled. Like we both dabbled in, like, we both loved drugs together, but like we never had enough, we never
Right.
had,
Yes.
but whenever we did, we would be like, ah. And so Naomi had, she had privileges, professional courtesy with all the doctors in town because she was a personal injury attorney and she could get all that money. And so the doctors in town were like, come in, come in. So she had already become addicted to Lorta. I didn't realize that, and she probably didn't either. Um, so I started going to Vegas to to go have an appointment with one of these doctors. And he would prescribe me a bottle of 100 Lortab with 2 refills, which I could refill in LA. That's how, like, kind of loose things were at the time. And at first I was like sharing them with everybody, like I would be like, oh my God, look at this tub of Lortab and just passing them out to everybody. And then when I realized that I was, I probably like a few months into this, that the first time I got sick when I ran out, I was like, oh, no more sharing. So that was when I started keeping the secret, going back to Vegas under some, it's not that far of a drive, under some, I would make up some bullshit excuse to go every 6 weeks and I'd see my doctor and pick up my prescription. I'd have to be sick for like 10 days in between running out and getting back to the doctor. And the kids were little and I was like a junkie. And it was
So your husband at the time, Mike, did not know what was going on?
did not know until I had a situation where I couldn't get to Vegas and I couldn't, like, my story fell apart. And I realized that I was so sick. And I realized I wasn't going to be able to get back. And Naomi was even worse shape than I was at that time. And she was the reason my story fell apart. And she was just we were both a mess. And so I called Michelle, my writing partner, and I was like, I have something to tell you. And Michael wasn't home. I was home alone with the kids. And I was just like, this, what's going on? And she was like, oh my God. So she was actually able to get me in touch with, she shared a manager Matthew Perry's with Matthew Perry for a period of time, like in New York back in the 90s. And so this lawyer had gotten Matthew into some kind of program for opiates. And so Michelle was able to find something. And then in the meantime, when Michael got home, I just told him what had been going on. And
Was he mad
um
or understanding?
no, I think he was just really just so shocked. like he just thought I had become an asshole because we lived in LA. Like he didn't know that like like because I was like super high achieving. Like there was something about opiates that made my brain really work. Like I didn't have to sleep. I could like bathe the kids, make the dinner, and then like put the kids to bed, be up all night working, and then like and just wash, rinse, repeat. And like
So
I just
interesting the difference between because I love the opiates too.
mhm.
And I had that experience of like when I would take some Vicodin, I could get a lot done. I
Yeah.
found people, it was like cocaine for other people, except not as intense, but I felt like, oh, I want to talk to old friends. I
Yes.
want to see what's going on with you. You
Yep.
know how cocaine makes you really interested in other people while you're
Oh,
high and
totally.
then you
Yeah.
lose interest as soon as you need more coke.
Yeah,
I was
right.
like that with Vicodin. I'd be like, ah,
Same.
I want to call people that I haven't talked to in 5 years. And
Yeah.
yeah, but I so many people that I know are like, wow, like one Vicodin and I'm asleep.
Yeah. It's
I'm
like,
like, oh
nope.
no, it's like coffee
It's
for me.
like,
I'm just getting
get me
started.
like I will clean the bathroom grout with a fucking toothbrush if you give me some, like it's and I've had to take painkillers in sobriety for a couple of different things over the years. And it does not, I don't remember why. I mean, it feels good, but like I don't remember why I was just so like they were my whole life. Like I just, and
Yeah,
aside from this, I mean, at some point it really was just about not getting sick. It wasn't about getting high anymore. It was about just not getting sick,
right.
um, which
But
is
you
really
never
no
tried,
fun.
you never started doing heroin as a way to like, so that you didn't have to go get all that Lortab.
No, I didn't. I was no, because I also, like I said, like there was something about imposing this order and also like imposing a consequence of myself. Like I would count pills like and just find out how many I could take per day to, and I mean, I was just like constantly, I counted my pills like many times per day. And I would just figure out how long it would be between my like finishing my pills and going to my next appointment. I imposed I would impose like a 10-day sick period or like, a week to 10 days of being sick in between. And I did this to myself. I don't know why. Um, Maybe because it was like I deserved it. I deserved the pain, but also it was like a way of imposing some order into this chaos. And so yeah, so that's what I did. I ended up going to see so yeah, Michael was like genuinely like shocked and then he was like really upset and then he was scared and he just wanted to help. So like, I went to see this doctor in Beverly Hills and he put me on this drug called Subutex, which is it's just another opioid, but it
Is it like
blocks the
Suboxone?
receptor. Yeah, it's like Suboxone, but I guess they give it to, this is sort of like the soccer mom version of it, Subutex. And
Okay.
and so um
Meanwhile, before this happened, Michelle, who I know as well, kind of
yeah,
a goody goody, right? Did she have no, did, was she, were you like not showing up? Were you
no, I was
flaky? Was
showing
she getting irritated? Or
she
did
was
she have,
so irritated with me. She was so irritated with me. And this was like in the first couple of years of our, writing partnership. But I was like incredibly productive. And my personality wasn't that different. It was just extra. And like in way in ways that like, I think she couldn't figure out if I was like fun to be around or just like the most amazing asshole in the world. Like I think that and so when I told her about this, also she's got some history of addiction in her family. So she was always just kind of like, what the and she knew that I drank a lot. So there was always kind of like she knew something was up, and she was just like, and she's also such an A student that like she's great in a crisis, and she just sprang into action. And like I was at a doctor 2 days later, and so this is the fork in the road place.
Okay.
Another fork in the road. So um as soon as I got on Subutex, there was like this relentless pressure to get off of it. And so, and I also tried to go to NA at that time, but they were like, people in NA were like, oh, you're on Subutex. You're not, you can't be. And I was just like, I don't. And they were like, and you have to stop drinking. I was like, well, that's not happening. And so I kind of was chased out of any kind of like recovery. I was going to this Subutex group that my doctor had at his office once a week. And so I was I did it was a 6-week taper, and then I got to the end and I jumped off of Subutex. And I think maybe I went back on for like a couple of weeks again, but like the pressure was always like, you need to get off this. You can't be on this. Like it was like you're like, start the taper immediately. Here's your date that you're gonna. And so when I got off the Subutex, I was so happy and relieved, and like I ran an 8K, and I was like and I like went on tour, like things that I couldn't do before because I was so like hamstrung to a doctor's appointment to get my medicine. And but what started happening was my brain, which was used to having those receptors filled all the time, like I started to go crazy and get like really like obsessive, like really upset, like obsessive compulsive, and also like really wanted to do like this compulsion to do painful, hurtful things was like overwhelming, to the point where I started behave. I I couldn't stop doing awful, dishonest things. It didn't matter what it was. It was like have an affair or like drive drunk or, whatever. I had to do something and my mind would not shut off. The point of telling you this part is that like, if I knew then what I know now, I probably would have insisted that they let me stay on Subutex for the rest of my life, because it worked, and it wasn't making me high, but jumping off of the Subutex and like the relentless pressure to do and not have. And then when I started losing my mind, my shrink was telling me like, oh, midlife crises used to just be the purview of men, but you're such a successful woman and you're beautiful and young, and of course you're feeling these. And so he was like making me feel like I was actually kind of awesome for
Wow.
being crazy, that like I was having a midlife crisis, but like, hey, lucky you, it's because you're really like a man. It was. And so it was so that. And then
And I'm sure your brain, because just the addict brain in general, so you have all this chemical stuff going on, but
mhm,
then, I mean, I just think it's sort of the basis of addiction. It's like we want to feel good. We
yeah,
want to feel different. So I'm sure if you were getting the go ahead from the psychiatrist that that's much better than being like, maybe I need to stop everything. Maybe I need
yeah.
to treatment. No, you're going to go like, oh, it's cool. Okay. Then I'm going to go harder. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what he was thinking, especially because he was actually in recovery. He was a former crackhead. So
Oh
like
gosh.
he was a psychiatrist in recovery. So like I don't, he went to meetings at the log cabin. I don't know why he was why he was like signing off on all of this. And then, because I was so used to taking my medicine in the morning, I was like, oh, well, I guess I'll start drinking in the morning. And the next thing you know, I'm crazy vodka lady. So I've got all of these. I just went from one secret life to another secret life. And it was, and then my
And Mike at the time is still hanging in there.
hanging in there. Was like really, things were getting bad because I was, it's so painful to even imagine what he was going through. But the end of that story was like after a particularly horrible incident at the house that the kids witnessed, and this was one of like, there was a year and a half of like just me being scary and like not really knowing what condition I'd be in, having a tug on the bottle before I walked the kids to school, and then really not knowing what condition I would be in at noon. So I couldn't make appointments anymore. And like, and so finally we woke up the next day after some situation that I remember enough about to have been like horrified, but not enough, not the whole thing. And and he was like, I called your parents, and I bought you a plane ticket, and I want you to go to, your parents are ready to see you and get you into a detox rehab, whatever. And he's like, you don't have to get on the plane if you don't want, but you can't stay here anymore because I have to protect myself and the kids from you. And at first I was like, fuck you. I'm not. And then like literally half a second after I had that thought, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. And that didn't scare me or anything. I actually kind of welcomed the idea that like maybe someday I just wouldn't wake up. But I also was like, I can't die with everything being such a mess. And I wanted to like redeem myself or something. Anyway, I ended up being hospitalized or some form of institution or hospital 7 times in the next 8 months after that. And then I finally, that was November of 2010 when he asked me to leave. And then I got sober in June of 2011.
Wow. So 7 different times.
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard, right? Like it's so hard for it to stick because our brains want to argue that we can do the things that we want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a
And
good
then
point.
and then the not doing it creates enough pain that we want to get out of that pain. So then we
Right.
make these bargains with ourselves of like, well, I'll just drink, but I'll do it better this time. I will
Mm-hmm.
manage it better. I'll be more honest about it. I remember toward the end of my drinking just being like, I need to stop trying to moderate because the moderating is making me insane.
Yeah.
And it's making me mad at myself all the time because I'm living in this state of like, what's wrong with me? I'm a bad person. I said I wasn't going to drink and I drank. So, what if I just allowed myself to be a drinker and just accept the fact that like I like to
Right.
drink? Some people like to crochet. I love cocktails, you know? And if I could just not drive drunk. That would be my thing. Like if I could
Right.
just not do that, then who cares, right? I'm
Right.
not like the kids are going to bed, they were pretty young, like what who cares?
Yeah.
Until I was like, "Oh, but I can't seem to manage not driving drunk." So,
Yeah.
I guess I can't drink, but it really had to be bad enough to just prove to myself once and for all you can't do you can't do it. You can't be a person who loves to drink, even though I still did.
Right.
When I quit drinking, I still love drinking.
Yeah. And I mean, it sounds like, were you like were you just terrified at the end when you couldn't stop drinking and driving? Was that scary to you?
Well, for me, like I said, I was home a lot with the kids and I was writing, so I was working from home. I didn't have to go places that much. So in my mind, I'm like, and I got young kids and I felt really trapped by that. I felt
Right.
really trapped by the whole lifestyle of just
So
like
were you like drinking at the Worlds, like for trapping you in this house?
I was drinking at like I'm a funny person. I have a fuck off personality. I'm
Yeah.
cool. Like, and this whole lifestyle of having young kids and thinking about preschool and thinking is not for me. Like
Yeah.
I'm meant for better than this, you know? And now I'm like, I'm a writer. I just had this idea of cool in my head. I wanted to be, it sounds so ridiculous now, but I just wanted to
Mhm.
be kind of cool. I was like, I used to be a stand-up comedian. Like, I think I stopped doing stand-up when the twins were little, but my idea was I want to be able to manage being still having an edgy personality,
Right.
but not do dangerous stuff.
Right.
Like, because
Like I
I
want
didn't,
that edge without the suicide.
right. And what I only realized way later was like, oh, that had always been in me. Like I said, looking at old journal entries, that sad, possibly suicidal alcoholic was there from the early on. And I just worked so hard to not deal with that part, to just go like, no, I can be a how can I make a lifestyle
Yeah.
so that I can, like you said, like musician lifestyle, comedian
Preserving your right
lifestyle.
to drink, you know?
So to me, it was, I didn't realize how bad it was. I was taking a lot of Xanax. I was managing anxiety. I was taking pills whenever I could get them. I was drinking a lot every single night. I could not take a night off. Absolutely not. Even if I was sick,
Mhm.
um, even if I had like the flu, I was
Yep.
like, I would just, everything was like, well, alcohol will kill the
Yeah.
germs. So to me, it was just when I drove very drunk with my kids in the car and my husband got in so mad. Um, he said, "You can't ever do that again." And I said, "Of course I would like never do that again." But inside I knew, well, of course I'm going to do that again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when I drink, I just make I make very bad decisions.
And you have to you need to get where you're going, and you need to get the kids home, and the
Right.
that was actually one of the when I had a lot of shame. I think drunk moms have, like, I think there's a special kind of shame and addiction that is reserved for us. That, like, and so when I got sober and joined a program where people share about their experiences, I remember, like, the one thing that I was never, ever, ever going to tell anyone, the secret that was going to my grave with me, I didn't care, was the fact that I had driven drunk with my kids in the car. No one is ever going to know this, because that to me was like everything else was like somewhat forgivable. This was unforgivable. Like, no one, and I also thought that I was the only person who could have ever done something that bad. And then I started hearing, other mothers telling their stories, and would just, like, not only like tell us, but like share that in a room of people, and like make it a story that was like, I mean, there's a friend of mine that shares a story about, she always had a handle in her car, and had her 5-year old behind her in the back seat, in her car seat, and got pulled over with her child in the car, hammered with a handle of vodka. And like, this wasn't the first time she did it. It was like the millionth. And, getting hauled away to prison, to jail, and having someone have to come and pick up the child, like, and telling this story, like, in a room full of people. And I was like, oh my God. Like, and the thing that was really important about hearing that story was that, like, the shame that I felt around it was like really outsized. And also, like, it kept me separate from other people, and kept me made me like really unique instead of just a fucking garden variety drunk, which is what I was, and I just did all the shit that you do when you're a garden variety drunk. It doesn't matter if you're a mom. We all do the same stuff. And so having that shame removed with, I still felt guilty, but like the shame of like, there's something wrong with me. Not I did something wrong, but like there's something wrong with me. Was put me in a position to help other women who are going through this now. I talk to a lot of other drunk moms in my life now.
You're doing it right
Because
now.
yeah, right. And right. And you are too. And when women are newly sober and they are feeling the way we felt, it's critically, and I know this from experience, that it's critically important to for them to identify, to have someone say like, oh, girl, me too. Like, don't even, it's going to be okay. You don't ever have to do that again. And kind of like disarm all of that shame because it doesn't serve anyone.
When I was first going to meetings, I different than you, I was telling people in support group meetings about what I'd done, but but I had also accidentally been outed, so I was having to do like, I shouldn't say having to, but I was getting asked, I was in interviews a lot and I was getting asked about my quitting drinking, and I would not say the thing about driving drunk, but I would
Yeah.
say it in meetings. But I'll never forget, maybe like second or third meeting ever, I shared about it and I was crying. I had so much shame. And this woman came over to me and she was like, honey, I breastfed so drunk that I had to bring my baby to the hospital because
Oh my
the baby
gosh.
was like, I don't know if like not
Wow.
non-responsive, but like the
Yeah.
baby got alcohol poisoning and she had to go to the hospital. And
Wow.
I felt so much better about myself.
It helps to know
It
that like
really
there's someone
helped.
worse than you. Like that is worse than us. Let's
Yeah,
be.
it was worse. And I was like, wow, she just shared that with me like it was not a big deal to help me. And she was a
Yeah.
totally normal looking,
Yes.
great mom.
Yeah.
Like she'd been sober for a lot of years at that point, but I was
Yeah.
so grateful that she shared that story with me. It made
Yeah.
me cry. And I was like, okay, I'm not alone. I'm not a monster.
Yeah.
I'm just like you said, a garden variety alcoholic. I want to know, I have a question, which is, what do you think, if you know, you're hospitalized 7 times? What was the final, like, what made, because I feel like if you just keep going back and doing the same thing, like, what made you go, this time it's got to be different? Or you know what I mean? From the day
Uh,
you got sober for this sobriety, 14 years, what was the difference?
Fear, a lot of fear. My last relapse, Michelle and I had just finished our dream job. We had just finished season 1 of Doc McStuffins, which is so funny. I mean, we could have had a behind the music for Doc McStuffins season 1 because there was some trauma. It was crazy. And we had just finished season 1 of Doc McStuffins. I had already been in, relapsed 2 other times and been in another detox. I had been in a 72-hour hold at one point for like trying to jump. It was crazy. But and so, and my children, I couldn't spend time with my kids alone. They didn't want to be alone. They were afraid of me. I wasn't living with Michael and the kids. He was with them, and I was just kind of home, couch surfing. And the last relapse I had, I OD'd on Lortab and vodka and found myself in Cedar Sinai and was just like, oh no. And and I actually I had relapsed first before that on Listerine. I was drinking Listerine for 2 weeks, but it hurt my stomach so bad that I just had to go ahead and just get the vodka. And then I tricked a friend of mine who I knew would have pills into letting me come over and take some of his pills. And then I stole more of his pills and then I took them and I OD'd. And so I found myself in another detox back at my parents' house down the Cape. They found me a place to go in Texas. And I was just absolutely broken. I mean, it's the only way and then I was asked to not come back I sort of had I've never heard of this before, a post rehab intervention where like I had to get on a conference call when I was in rehab with my therapist, all of my sisters, their husbands, my parents, Michael, and they all were telling me that I could not go back to Los Angeles, and they had decided that I needed to go live with mom and dad down the Cape. I mean, at 42 years old, going to live with mommy and daddy. I moved out when I was 17. It was like,
This is like a movie.
Yeah.
Did you?
For 3 months. And in that time, Michelle came to visit me. And she said that she would not work with me again until I had 2 years of sobriety.
Oh no, but
And I
you
was
guys were
like,
partners on the show.
we had been partners in everything. And like we had a company together. And like she said, and I was like, 2 years, that's insane. Weirdly, Doc McStuffins did not get picked up until I had 18 months of sobriety. It was
Wow.
so weird. And then I went back to work. Like Michelle and I dissolved our company, and I had to go back to work for Michelle on season 2. And I just had to suck it up and just do it. I was just like, I don't care. I'll just do it. By then, at like over a year and a half of sobriety, I had finally like been doing the steps, had a sponsor in the back, just like doing all the stuff and like actually becoming a human. She was absolutely right. I could not have gone back to work at a year, 8 months, none of it. I was a disaster. I mean, the first year and a half of my sobriety was like arguably worse than the end of my drinking. Like I lost my marriage. I lost my kids. I lost my business. I lost my mind. Like I really believe that I had some kind of a breakdown in there. Lost my money, had to call the IRS and like tell them it was not good. So 18 months was actually when the ship had started to turn around. And I don't know how Michelle knew that was going to be a reasonable period of time, but it ended up being like so many things with me and Michelle. It just kind of worked out.
But then you guys became partners again because you've
Yes,
worked
and
together so much.
we're still partners. We have our own show. Now we have our own show on Disney. So
Kindergarten, what's it? Tell us
Kindergarten
what
the
it's.
musical.
You're so successful. What is so rare, I think, is that and I'll say this about myself too, in the way of like it's so great when you can have a creative thing like being in a band, but then turn it into something that's an actual real job with
Yeah.
stability. Writing for me after doing stand up was such a better fit for me.
Yeah, going behind the scenes
Hmm.
is like,
Hmm.
I mean, I think for both of us, it's like going behind the scenes where like you don't have to sell yourself, and like, you can do your job in your pajamas and like, and it's not about you. It's about, being in the service of this other creative vision where no one, you don't have to like put on makeup or do the photo shoot or anything. I
Right.
mean, you probably do for like the book, for the book
No,
launch
no
or
more than
whatever,
you
but
do, but you're going out there. You're still, so Letters to Cleo has been performing.
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. And Michael and I, by the way, we
Uh-huh.
never got back together. That our marriage did not survive that. And but we somehow managed, it took years to start healing. And a few years before I was able to see the kids on my own, like at maybe like a year and a half of sobriety, I finally got like a get well apartment and was able to have the kids come up. But Zoe was like she was just a teenager, and when she could come over and stay with me, she opted to not. She really didn't want to have anything to do with me. And I had to I had to just like let her have her own path. And anyway, Michael met a woman, a wonderful woman named Tama a few years later. And and then I met someone after that. And now like we have this amazing family, and our kids are thriving and happy. And Zoe May is my best friend. And, it really time, and for someone who's really impulsive and I want like the quick fix, I want to fix it now. I want it now, everything now. Actually, yesterday would be better. For someone like me, it's like if you had told me how long it was going to take to repair my family and how little control I would have over that timeline, like I couldn't talk my way out of it. I couldn't act my way out of it. I just had to like live my way out of it. And I had no control over how other people were going to kind of like heal around me. And I had to just stay the fuck out of it, which was a lesson in and of itself. Anyway, yeah.
Your story is heartbreaking, but it's so beautiful. And, I think that everybody imagines that like you just get sober and then, you quit drinking and then your life gets great. And I don't think that that is the truth for a lot of us. I think a
Yeah.
lot of us go through things more similar to what you went through, where also you'd had this life. I mean, you got with your first husband young, you're living this one way. And I think learning how to really process emotions and deal with the trauma from our past
Mm.
without it's it's just honest and truthful. And I'm so glad you're sharing like the hard parts of it, because I'm glad you're not putting a shine on it that's
Oh,
like,
there's
yeah, and
no
then I quit.
shine.
But tell me really quick before we wrap about your dad. So your dad,
So my dad was sober for 18 years. And then he was in AA, and he got somebody somewhere like, and he was like one of those Southie old timers, one of those guys that's like, take the cotton out of your ears and stick it in your mouth, and like, you know,
right.
ashtrays in the urns of coffee and smoking cigarettes at the meeting, and one of those guys. And at some point, somebody, I don't know, like broke his anonymity. Somebody did something that pissed him off. And it was the classic, like he got this like massive resentment. So he stopped going to AA, and he stopped doing anything to like treat his alcoholism. And it was like for years, you could feel the anger just like vibrating. Like it was not pleasant to be around him. And when I went to live with them after rehab in 2011, I noticed that like dad was like really like weirdly just like in a great mood, especially like getting towards the end of the day. Like he would just be like really, and I was like, and then one day, like I smelled alcohol on him, and I was like, oh my God. And I told my sister, and I was like, I think dad's drinking. And she was like, mom thinks my mom was making up all sorts of excuses. Anyway, long story short, he decided to get like that was it. It ended up being a kind of it was true. He had started drinking again. And he ended up going to the same rehab that I went to. And then the people who took care of me on Cape Cod and like helped me just like become human again on the Cape when I lived with them. They like scooped him up and like took care of him. And he died last January with 10 years of sobriety, like the best, like world's greatest grandpa, like just beloved and by all of us, and like the grandkids just could not get enough of him. And he died he was just right with all of us, and I was right with him, and we got to walk him home. You know, it was just a really incredible life that he had.
Oh my gosh. That is, wow. I'm teary. That is a beautiful story. What a great ending to
I
this
know.
interview. Thank you for being here. Tell us some stuff that we can, let's follow you on Instagram. Give me all your plugs. Tell us everything that's going on.
Instagram and Blue Sky. I'm
Okay, good.
at Kay Hanley. And I mean, sometimes I'll post on Twitter, but not really. We have some Cleo shows coming up in Chicago and Madison, I think, this summer. We'll be doing some festivals in the fall, and then we'll do a proper kind of a like a mini tour in November. So just letters to Cleo.net and watch Kindergarten the Musical. You don't even have to be a child to watch it, because it's like we wrote 150 songs for season one, and all the episodes are airing now. And we wrote them for ourselves, really. We wrote them for parents because parents control the remote. And but they're also great for kids. We just don't write kid songs. We write awesome songs.
I
And
love it. What some people might not know is that my other podcast, For Crying Out Loud, you and Michelle from the Dilettantes
yes.
wrote the theme song. That's
Yeah,
you
good
guys singing
day.
our theme song, which has been like our theme song
Right.
for like 14 years.
That's amazing.
Yes.
We
So
got to
for
get the
any of my,
dilettantes back together someday.
yes. All
Someday.
right. Thank you so much, Kay. I so appreciate your time. I think you're going to help a lot of people. And come back next week for more Drunkish. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Feeling like life is good.